Hello and welcome, I'm Arumba, thank you for joining me. It's that time again. We have a new patch coming out on Thursday, that's 2 days from today, but we have the EU4 1.10 patch notes available to decipher. So let's go ahead and go through these together, and I'm just going to give you my thoughts and opinions on kind of how it's going to affect gameplay and how it may affect things. Interesting, I queued up the Paradox the EU4 music, and the one that came on was the Christmas song, which is awesome, because it's like Christmas in February. If you actually listen closely, you can hear they don't say the normal words. It's like about Casus Belli and wars and stuff. It's really cool. So that is, it's a free DLC you can get during Christmas, I think. I don't think you can get it all the time. I think you have to actually sign up for it or like purchase it for $0 during Christmas. During, well, the holidays. Let's not say Christmas. So here are the full patch notes for the 1.10 patch that is being released on Thursday alongside El Dorado. Now, keep in mind, anytime I do one of these videos, I do truncate it a little bit. There will be a link in the description down below to the absolute full patch notes and a link to the forums where you can see the full patch notes and comments and stuff like that. But I parsed the notes and cut out the stuff that I don't think is really a huge deal because it would otherwise be like a couple hour long video. All right, so we have first up added religious reform system for the new Inti and Maya religions. Each of these religions have 5 reforms each that they can pass by achieving certain conditions. Upon passing all 5 reforms and bordering a Western country, they can reform their religion, which jumps them up to par with the Western tech country and disables the special religion mechanics such as Doom and Authority. The reform bonuses are kept permanently even after the reform. So cool. Now we get to read about each of those specific countries or nations. The Mayan cycle mechanics. Mayan countries can expand very rapidly to pass reforms, but upon passing a reform will collapse back into a smaller state. Each reform passed allows them to terrain more territory. It's probably supposed to say maintain more territory. I'm gonna fix the patch notes for them. Typos are pretty common. They happen every now and then. No big deal. Added Inti authority mechanics. Inti countries will have a ticking authority value based on their size, and can use this value to pass religious reforms. Each reform they pass will spark a civil war, which if they lose, they revoke 2 reforms, keeping in mind that there are only 5 that you need to pass. So it's a pretty severe penalty for losing the reform. I mean, or the civil war. I imagine you don't want to do that unless you're sure you can win. Added the that one, Doom mechanics, non-subject countries with that religion. I'm not going to say that word. You can't. I'm not going to try it. They'll have a Doom value that ticks toward 100 based on their size. If they ever hit 100, they lose all monarch points, their ruler and their heir dies, all subjects break free, they lose a religious reform, and they get a 0/0/0 ruler. Wow. That's unfortunate. Each reform passed makes the Doom counter go up slower. The very first thing that comes to my mind when I see this is I'm thinking like DDR Jake style. Notice how it says non-subject countries with that religion will have a Doom value. Okay, so go attack a Western nation country and force them to make you their protectorate. Now you're a subject nation, now you don't have to worry about Doom. Aha. We'll see if it works or not, I don't know. Added events for Maya, Inti, and that one religion. Now possible to create an entirely custom nation by clicking on the custom nation button during custom setup. Again, we're talking about expansion features. You must own the expansion for these things so far. So if you want to do the custom nation, it is something you'll have to purchase the El Dorado expansion for. Which, you know, I'm of the opinion that these things are always worth it. So, you know, if it's 30 minutes after the patch comes out and I don't have a code from Paradox to review the game yet, I'm going to buy it. Just because I can't wait and I want to play it that bad. So, it's my opinion. You can set your custom nation's starting location, provinces, culture, religion, government, ruling dynasty, national ideas, and more. Up to 32 custom nations are supported in single and multiplayer. So, I actually had a chance to play around with this in at ParadoxCon this year, and it is really cool. Like, you can really create some pretty fun stuff. Like I've already come up with 2 countries that I'm definitely going to play, and I think it's going to add huge replayability to EU4. And I think this feature alone is probably the reason why I would buy the expansion. Added options for custom game setup where you can randomize or flatten provinces, base tax, and manpower. Play in an uncolonized world with only custom nations, or play with a world populated by randomly generated countries. Again, tremendous amounts of replayability added to the game. It's cool because like you can have like literally no one on the map. Like you can play it like Civilization style where there's like 5 countries and it's just you and it's a free-for-all to colonize everything, and it's pretty cool. And the randomized base tax is cool because it might make it so that, you know, Ile-de-France isn't 15 base tax at the beginning of the game, or it might make it so that you know, some random province in Africa is 15 base tax, which is cool. And then the flattened one, I think, is going to be really good for multiplayer, because every province will have 3 or 4 base tax, and there's no, like... The only drawback is that there's still one major problem with it, and that's that the trade nodes are not dynamic. So there still always is going to be like a preferred area that you want to be. You'll still want to be in Europe, but I think we're like one step away from randomized whole world, which is probably something I would guess could happen in the future, which I think would be really cool. Because it's like my only complaint. Like, I know that EU4 has always been about historical simulation, but I love it for the conquest, the wars, the mechanics, the politics, like all that stuff, and having a randomized world would be tremendous. So we're getting there. We're getting closer. It's really cool. Colonial nations now accumulate the gold that they get from their gold mines, no longer giving benefits from it, no longer get benefit from it themselves, but instead sending a treasure fleet to the homeland whenever enough gold has been accumulated. Non-friendly privateers in the trade node path will steal parts of it depending on privateer power. Okay, basically, as they send the gold home, if there are pirates and there are no ships protecting that trade path, then they'll take, like, I think as much as like all of it. But we'll talk about how you protect against that here in a moment. Larger colonial nations, 10 provinces or more, now provide you with a merchant. That's pretty good. You already get half their trade power. It's nice that you'll be able to steer which direction the trade goes. Fleets with big and light ships can now be sent hunting pirates in trade nodes, reducing privateer efficiency up to 99% depending on the gun ratio in the trade nodes. My brief experience with this was that you don't need very many cannons to... it's like... I believe that the mechanic works kind of like this. If I send 10 heavies and you send 10 light ships, and then it's going to tally up the number of like ships or cannons that you have, the number of cannons that I have, and depending on how many cannons I have, obviously heavies have more cannons than light ships, so it's going to really squash the efficiency of the privateers. The Treaty of Tordesillas, the first Catholic nation to form a colonial nation in a colonial region, will now get a bonus to colonization there, while other Catholic nations get penalties. So this should hopefully alleviate some of that border gore we see with colonial nations, like having everyone colonize the same node. Hopefully we'll see like Portugal will colonize Brazil, and Spain will colonize something else, and they'll kind of stay away from each other. You can now set a conquistador on a colonial region to hunt for the 7 cities. This will make them automatically explore their surroundings in search of the legendary 7 cities of gold. You can now order a fleet with an explorer to circumnavigate the globe if your Diplotech is at least level 9. It will attempt to make a journey from the Straits of Magellan to the Cape of Good Hope. If it successfully makes the journey, you are the first to do it. You'll earn 100 prestige. Of course, you probably are going to get 101 prestige for every sea zone you move through, so you'll already be at 100 prestige. So this is a useless benefit, but it's cool nonetheless. I personally have a gripe with prestige in the game right now. I think it's useless. It's far too easy to get to 100. You can order fleets with explorers to automatically explore uncharted territories and coasts. That's cool. More automation for tediousness is good. You can now get access to privateers if you own El Dorado, even if you do not own Wealth of Nations. You can now get access to support independence if you own El Dorado, even if you do not own Conquest of Paradise. I like this. This is the first time I've seen Paradox do something like this, where they'll unlock features from previous DLCs with the current DLC to try to like keep you up to par. I mean, it's cool. You got to recognize Paradox as a publisher and as a gaming developer, like they need to make money, right? Like you can't, they don't work for free, so they've got to make money. But at the same time, they want you to buy the new DLC too. Like the problem is that if you have old DLC, like let's say you skipped Conquest of Paradise, then I can imagine how all of the changes in El Dorado would be difficult to implement with support independence. You know, like it's kind of like you need that feature. So I don't know. I just think, you know, wait for a Steam sale, buy it at 75% off if you don't want to buy it at full price, but all the stuff's really good. Free features. In multiplayer, faster save game transfers. Cool. Added lots of dynamic historical events for South and Central American countries. Added Inti, that one word, and Mayan religions. Added autosaves in multiplayer now have the prefix MP, so that your autosaves won't overwrite your single-player autosaves. The DAC feud for Sweden is now a disaster instead of an event chain. Cool. Added a new disaster for the Ottomans called the Janissary Decadence, which replaces some parts of the old event chain for Janissaries. Enjoy a disaster without unrest. Great. All subjects now have liberty desire toward their overlord based on factors such as relative strength, war exhaustion, and tariffs. Their attitude toward overlord is determined by their level of liberty desire. There's been a complete overhaul, like really, of liberty desire. So, subjects that are greater than 50 liberty desire will refuse to pay taxes and contribute to wars, while subjects at 100 liberty desire are likely to declare an independence war. So, it used to be, and this is just, again, I had a brief bit of time to experience the patch myself. It used to be that Liberty Desire was this mechanic that would like tick up over time, and like you would increase tariffs, and that would piss them off, and they'd get more Liberty Desire, or there'd be random events. Now Liberty Desire is just like a number, and again, this is from my brief experience, so I could be wrong, right? It could be different upon Thursday when the patch actually comes live, but this is what I expect it's going to be like. It works like in Crusader Kings 2 with regards to factions. If you have, like, say, 10 vassals, and they're all equally strong as you are, then together, their collective relative strength versus you is very high, which is going to cause them to have high Liberty Desire. And if they all have high Liberty Desire, then they're going to join together, and they're going to basically do a faction. They're going to attack you, and they're going to break free. So you're not going to have, like, in my Holy Roman Record Race series, where I had, all of the vassals of the HRE, I imagine that if I were to load that save up in El Dorado, they would just immediately declare a liberty, a war of independence. So I think it's good. I never liked how, with colonial nations especially, they would attack each other. Like, if one guy tried to break free, all the others would defend him. It sounds like now they're actually going to kind of work together. So we might see, like, Spain make a whole bunch of colonial nations, but then they actually break free. So we'll see some more actual, like, Brazils and 13 colonies and California and whatever, we'll see some new countries form, which should be cool. Added dynamic tricolors for revolutionary countries. Major rework of terrain map to better reflect reality. How a province appears on the map should now be much closer matched to its actual terrain. Added 4 new terrain types, drylands, steppe, and highlands and farmlands. I believe these are all going to be, like, no penalty to fight in. Added 10 new achievements. Actually, I don't know, though. Maybe there is a modifier on some of them. Game balance. Your own cores on your own provinces no longer expire until you have cored the province. So it used to be that if you declared war on somebody and the claim was supposed to expire sometime during that war, the claim wouldn't expire until the war ended. And then on the very next first day of the month, it would expire. So if you didn't start coring right away, like say you didn't have enough admin points to core everything you took, then you would lose the claim, and now all of a sudden you have to pay full price. So now your own claims on those provinces that you've taken will not expire until you have cored the province. So I think that's a good change. Centralization and decentralization modifiers from events now affect autonomy instead of income. Conquering primitives no longer gives nationalism for non-primitives. Conquering primitives no longer gives nationalism for non-primitives. Interesting. So wait, are you saying, like, if I'm Spain and I attack a primitive, then I won't have to deal with nationalism anymore? Sweet. Awesome. That'll make the primitives really easy to conquer. Colonized provinces no longer contribute to overextension even after they finish. I imagine, this is the only circumstance I could imagine that this made sense to me. You remember sometime during Art of War, they patched it so that same continent colonization, you had to core, but you had no more 50% autonomy floor. Those would contribute to your overextension. So I'm guessing that basically the colonizing you do on your own continent won't contribute to overextension. That's what I'm reading here. Non-core provinces no longer contribute to force limits. That's a good change, I think. Players are no longer blocked from changing capital due to having a fixed capital. That's good. So the AI is still blocked, is the way I'm reading this. They will not move their capital. Like, Tunis will always be in Tunis, for instance. But the player can do whatever the hell they want, which is good. One of the ways to end religious turmoil now requires the full humanist idea group, not just picking it and then discarding it immediately. Seems good. It's just a bug fix, really. Provinces within 2 provinces of a colonial nation's colonial region can now be sold to that colonial nation. Thank goodness. I could not stand. I was doing this in the Tech Team Scotland campaign with Shen, where, like, we had, French Canada or whatever, like Scottish Canada. We created a colonial nation, and then there was, like, a couple provinces that were, like, kind of nearby, but, like, in a technically different colonial region, and it's like, this is just stupid that they're not part of the same colonial nation. And I understand that they don't want you to just make, like, one huge colonial nation, but having a little bit of flexibility, I think, is reasonable. It's a very good change. Breaking a royal marriage with a rival is no longer a stab hit. Reduced prestige gained on province discoveries. Okay, that's fine. Prestige doesn't matter. You can now join a league even if you have a truce with the emperor. Alright, cool. Aristocracy, noble officers are no longer +1 shock and instead -1 army tradition decay and -1 navy tradition decay. The economic idea group, centralization is no longer an increased advisor pool, instead it lowers monthly autonomy. That fits, I think, well with economic. Reduced mercenary cost reductions for some national ideas. reduce the cost in, reduce the reduction in cost of reducing, Jesus, reduce the reduction in cost for reducing war exhaustion. Okay, that's a lot of reducings. For some national ideas. Finisher for offensive is now plus 2.5% army morale recovery. So at first, my very first thought was, oh crap, that was a huge nerf, right? Offensive just got nerfed like crazy, because you used to get forced march at the end. But we're going to cover that in a moment. So, generally speaking, your army recovery rate is like 15, your army morale is like 15%. But there are certain ideas that will increase it, and like, you know, like I think Austria, I think was one of the countries that had like 33% increased army morale recovery rate. So on their own territory, they'd get 20%. Or whatever, you know, they have like a flat bonus to their army. I'm thinking this is a static increase, 2.5% no matter what. So where this will have the most impact is if you're in enemy territory, you normally have less army morale recovery. It's like 10 or 5% per month. So extending yourself really far into an enemy's territory can cause you to lose morale, and they get their bonus morale, and you can lose the morale war. But with this, now offensive is going to make it so you can kind of penetrate into their territory and still have good recovery. And I assume it'll be even higher in your own territory, assuming it's a flat modifier. If it's not a flat modifier, then that's garbage. If it's like, oh hey, you do 2.5% more of 15%, that's nothing. But it can't be that way. Conquistadors and explorers now have slightly fewer pips on average than generals and admirals. According to Wiz, when I did my my second Arumba's Adjustments video, he said that it's about 80% of the normal amount. So if you have like 100 tradition and you hire a general, and you hire a conquistador, the general will have 100 admiral, like 100 army tradition worth of pips, and the conquistador will have roughly 80 army tradition worth of pips. So they're always going to be better, generally speaking. Haha, generals, generally. Haha. Anyway, religion. Will now get occupation of Rome penalty if you are Catholic and a subject of yours who is not the papal state holds Rome. You will now get a penalty to diplomatic reputation if you're Catholic, have subjugated the Pope, and you have not formed Italy, and Italy no longer gets a penalty when holding Rome. So some changes there with regards to the Rome province. Innovative lost knowledge transfer. This is the one that reduced your army and naval tradition by like 2%. Innovative gained dynamic court, so you get more advisors. Polish magnate rebels added as a type, replacing the noble rebels in Poland with a resilient, tougher breed, hell-bent on elective monarchy. Particularist rebels can now happen even if you don't have economic ideas. Patriot rebels can once again defect to provinces of subject nations. Yay! Oh my gosh, we can stop seeing this stupidity of like Denmark's their rebels that don't want to be part of your Denmark land, and then they, instead of defecting to an existing Norway or Finland or something, they defect to like who knows who, like something stupid. Like hopefully they'll defect to actual existing subject nations. And most importantly now, subjects who have provinces defect to them now get a large increase in their liberty desire. So not only will like Sweden get its territory back or Norway get its territory back, but now they're going to have higher liberty desire, they'll try to break free, which is cool. Rebels revolt against the province owner rather than the province controller, but will still siege the controller. So for example, this was, again, I think this is more of a bug fix. Let's say you're at war, and you occupy, since we're talking about Denmark, I occupy part of Holland or something, and then that province rebels. It would rebel against me, even though it's not my land, or something. And then if the war ends, and I don't know, there's this weird circumstance where like you take the land, but then the rebels are still targeting you, but there's nothing for them to siege, and then all of a sudden like the other country just loses because the rebels enforce demands due to the timing, the ticking time clock thing. So all of a sudden you just like lose all your land, and there was nothing you could do. It's more of a bug fix, I think, which is good. Revolution and aspiration for liberty disasters can no longer happen to subjects. That's good. Primitives is no longer based on religion. Instead, it's based on all countries with a technology penalty of 100% or slower are now considered primitives. So if you are the, what's that one called? The one that's in South Africa. Actually, it's in a lot of Africa. The animist. Let's say you're animist religion. Changing to Catholic doesn't mean you're not primitive anymore. You still need to westernize to get rid of the tech, what primitives is really important for is like if somebody has exploration, the finisher on exploration idea groups gives you permanent CB against primitives. So you have to westernize to get rid of it, not just change your religion. Primitive tech groups are no longer allowed to build ships. That's pretty severe. Ouch. Forced march is no longer an effect gained through national ideas, and instead it's just given to you at Admin Tech 9. So this is actually, it is kind of a nerf to a fully offensive idea group, because now everyone's going to get it. But I like this change. I like it a lot. I feel like this is so valuable that you almost had to go offensive every game. And that's not a good thing. When you're pigeonholed into a gameplay mechanic, then it's bad. And so this will allow people to choose different ideas and still have the ability to actually fight in competitive wars. Reworked inland trading mechanics to have caravan power based on your base tax that is given in your home node if it's inland, or in any node where you try to pull to or from inland modified with your caravan. Good lord, Paradox. Like, you gotta work on your way of wording things. No one would understand what the hell this means, I think. This replaces previous inland and transfer towards inland modifiers. Okay, let me try to explain this a little bit more clearly. Based on your base tax, from 1 to 50, you will get transfers from inland trade power bonus. Okay, just like it used to be. It used to be like some number that was determined by ideas and like, you know, half of your trade efficiency and like some convoluted mechanic. Now it's like this. If you have 25 base tax, you get 25 trade power. Flat. That's it. If you're a Merchant Republic, you get like 33% modifier on that, and so now you'll have 25 times 1.33. So let's say you are England and you want to transfer trade power from Lübeck. You will get no bonus because that is not a inland node. But if you put your merchant in, say, Wien, and you try to steer it towards one of the other nodes, like Rhineland or something, I don't remember if those are in the right order, just, you know, but just, you understand what I'm saying. If it's an inland node, then if you have 50 base tax, you'll get 50 transferred trade power. If you have 25 base tax, you'll get 25 transferred trade power. The purpose of this was to stop little tiny stupid countries like one province miners in the HRE from all taking trade ideas, and then they would all transfer trade power, and like the Ragusa trade node would just get completely obliterated because they're all pulling and steering inland. Now they don't have any trade power because they have low base tax. So it's a good change. It should balance out trade a little bit more, and it's cool. I like it. Trade companies now give -2% missionary strength penalty to compensate for the fact that they ignore non-accepted culture missionary strength penalty. Alright. Pretenders no longer increase local autonomy when they win. Cool, that's good. No longer have automatic access to allies while at war if those allies are not part of the war themselves. I don't remember it ever being that way before, so I'm led to believe that that was a bug. Because I distinctly remember looting provinces adjacent to my allies if those allies weren't part of the war. And in a recent campaign, my Switzerland achievement, I was trying to loot like France, and I was allied with England, and England still had some of their French cores. And I couldn't loot adjacent to any of that land, and I don't remember it being that way. So, seems again to me kind of like a bug fix, but it's not in the bug fix section, so who knows. You now have automatic access to any country. This is huge. You now have automatic access to any countries that are granting military access to those you are at war with. So it's no longer going to be the case that I can just like get military access from, say, a country that let's say I'm playing as Brittany or something, and France is at war with me. They want to kill me, and they're rivaled with England, and England is rivaled with France. So they hate each other, right? It used to be that you could park your army in England's territory, like move to Calais or something, and then France could just never get military access. Your army was immune to everything. But if you have access, they get access. So that's interesting. You can still kind of like check and see, like, okay, a great example, let's say you're playing as France or Spain or something. So sorry, France or Castile, and Aragon's in between. If France hates Aragon or Aragon hates France, don't ask for military access from Aragon, otherwise France will have access to you. That kind of thing. Like, you're still going to be able to section off the AI, like prevent them from getting to you, but you'll have to be careful about who you get access from. It's going to be a good change. I'm looking forward to seeing how that affects gameplay. It's no longer possible to send explorers to open seas before you have quests for the New World. Okay, good. Why is that in this section? It should be a bug. You shouldn't have been able to do that in the first place. Wait. Am I reading that wrong? It's no longer possible to send explorers to open seas. Open seas? Are you saying like the ocean? Is that what that means? Because okay, explorers can move into Terra Incognita, but any kind of admiral can move. And this doesn't make sense. I mean, okay, are you saying like admirals You can no longer send admirals because you could always send you could always send explorers. Like Portugal starts with explorers. Okay, maybe that's what they're talking about. It's no longer possible to send explorer to open seas, or you have the quest for the New World idea. Gotcha. Okay. So Portugal starts with like 2 explorers or 3 explorers or something. That might be what that is. That nerfs Portugal. Could be. Could make sense. I'm not sure. Your armies can now shatter or retreat to any province controlled by anyone fighting in a war together with you. Not just your own territory or occupied provinces or subject nation provinces. Interesting. Cool. Good. Fewer shattered retreats for one province over and then getting stack wiped. You can now transfer occupation to countries whose subjects control an adjacent province. Okay. I'm still wanting to be able to transfer territory back to anybody, or at least to the war leader, but... oh man. Oh well. The AI will now raise and decrease autonomy. Great. Seems like they should have been able to do that in Art of War. I'm glad to see it, though. Hopefully they do it well. Diplomacy. They now have a penalty to allying countries that are allied to its rivals. No longer has a penalty to allying multiple great powers. Sweet. Good. I hated that penalty. Will now only join coalitions if there is a sufficiently large coalition in place, or enough of other countries interested in joining such a coalition that they would have a chance at challenging the coalition target. So no longer, this is kind of a fix. My proposed fix was that, okay, if I declare war on somebody and they have an ally that they form after I've declared war, they can still send a defensive call to them. The way I would have changed it is I would have said that if there's a coalition in progress and there's no truce, or sorry, like someone joins the coalition, they should just join the war, the active war. But this is good too. Maybe even do both changes. We'll see. But yeah, having a one province minor join the coalition is kind of stupid. So I'm glad that they won't do that. Less passive against countries that border it through vassals. Hard AI is now less willing to ally with countries that it is neutral towards. More reluctant to grant military access to those that are at war with its allies. Good. No longer willing to grant military access to much stronger nations they dislike if they have a powerful overlord. Okay. So it's not going to be the thing where you're playing as Castile, Austria, or sorry, you're playing as Castile, France is at war with you, Aragon hates them, so they won't give them military access, you've vassalized Navarra, and your freaking vassal grants like military access or something stupid like that. Well, they couldn't do that if they were your vassal, but if they were your ally and they weren't in the war or something, that's good. No longer willing to give military access to much stronger nations they dislike. There was a circumstance where like your vassal would give military access and it was stupid. More priority on relative power when considering whether to grant military access. In the HRE, the Emperor is now less willing to give up to peace out of wars where he is defending the Empire. They will now wait a bit before starting the League War so the player has a chance to join. Electors are now more likely to vote for the League leader when determining who should be Emperor after a League War is won by the opposition religion. As far as idea goes, the AI will now pick ID groups dynamically based on AI will do if AI uses historical idea groups define is set to 0 or game is using custom/random setup. So this is kind of related to the ruler designer, or the nation designer. You can set it so that the AI will just, randomly pick ideas instead of just choosing what they always pick, which is awesome. Hugely improves replayability. The AI will no longer pick trade ideas unless it has at least 6 provinces, or it is a merchant republic. Good. Portugal will now take expansion before religious. Cool. So they're going to focus less on the Reconquista, because they're not going to have the Deus Vult CB, and they're going to focus more on colonization, which is cool. Chinese miners will no longer take expansion, so we'll see less Chinese people colonizing. And as far as the AI goes with war, they are now more reluctant to separate peace out of a war which their side is winning. Fixed a bug where the AI would always treat a peace offering of others' trade power as something it wanted despite the UI saying otherwise. That was an exploit fix. Again, this is a bug fix. I don't even know why it's in this section. Interface. It was an exploit fix, really. They should have a section called exploit fixes. Interface. Alerts. Unrest alert opens stability view instead of cycling provinces. Front-end map starts in political map mode. Autonomy macro build interface will now show true unrest number instead of setting negative unrest numbers to 0. I love this change. It's so good. This is one of the things I think I asked for in Arumba's adjustments number 1, and I got to play with it in Sweden. It's so good. So much better. It's like such a quality of life, ease of use change. It's amazing. Autonomy build Interface will no longer show provinces with no unrest if their autonomy value cannot be lowered due to minimum autonomy limitations. Let's say you're playing as Ming or a Horde, and you have a 25 or a 50% floor on your autonomy, and you're at the floor. Then, if there's no reason to decrease it, and there's no reason to increase it, like, it'll just not be on the list, which is good. It's another good change. Like, you can still go in and increase it if you want, but generally, the purpose of the macro build interface is to, like, see which ones you want to lower autonomy in. Which is good. So, and like if there's, okay, if you're at 25% autonomy and 0% revolt risk, it's not on the list. If you're at 25% autonomy and 3% revolt risk, it will be on the list because maybe you want to raise autonomy to get the unrest gone. That kind of thing. Overseas provinces are now always hidden in the autonomy macro build interface. So that's fine, because again, they have a 75% floor and you can't really do anything about them. Macro builder template building accurately shows reason like single unit building does. Yeah, what he said. Whatever. It makes no sense to me at all. Added warnings and reminders for army and fleet maintenance lower than 100% to war declaration dialogue. That's sweet. That's awesome. Is that, I wonder, in the like in the diplomacy screen where you're trying to decide if you want to declare war, or if that's in the like we have declared war pop-up? I'm not sure. But either way, I think it's a good pop-up. Or a good warning. There's now a message when a truce involving your country expires. Sweet. That's good. Instead of having to hover over the tooltip, the alert drop down and like seeing which one you're expiring with, you'll actually get a pop-up. Battle sounds are now less loud. Tech map mode now also says the technology group of the owner. Okay. Fixes to allied objective selection pop-up. Easier to close without reselection. I hope that it actually works now. Maybe allies will actually do what you tell them to do. National monuments are now visible. That's fine. Tooltip for personal union offer is now probably correct. I love that. It's probably correct. We made some changes. It might be correct now. We think, maybe. Added tooltip explaining monthly advisor cost. Added benefits for joining Crusade to the tooltip for Crusader target in the papacy view. Province condensed tooltips now give province prefix at all times. It is now shown how to stop a disaster and why it is or isn't progressing in the disaster tooltip. Tooltip now explains that you can't declare war on your senior union member if they are fighting in a war of succession for your throne. Toggle tooltip for allow allied armies to load fleet button. Integration/annexation dip cost show in the DP gain tooltip. Oh, excellent, excellent. So, you know how like if you're over your diplomatic relationship limit, it'll tell you why you're like losing 1 point per month? It's going to show that in either, I'm not sure if it's going to show it on the diplomatic tooltip or on your like your country screen, the one that shows you your gains. But either way, that's cool. Consolidate Regiment Tooltip displays information about shift modifier. We haven't covered that yet, but it's coming up soon. Rebel factions in the outliner now have a tooltip. You can now get a tooltip saying if you got ships that can be upgraded or not, even if they're at sea. Claims tooltip corrected with regards to expiration of owned uncored provinces. Privateer mission button tooltip displays the current activity, just like protect trade mission button. Good. Units. Moved leader stars for navies to be consistent with armies. Holding shift down when consolidating regiments now keeps the empty regiments around. So that's awesome. Now you don't have to, like, you can hold down shift, consolidate regiments, detach the 0 armies, and then send forward the actual full regiments, and then the other regiments will just like continue to recover morale and recover troops. So it's interesting. It's a good change. I mean, it could be cool. Nicer privateer button alignment for certain DLC combinations. Friendly rebel units in battles on map now get the correct color instead of enemy. As far as scripting goes, the Royal Palace is now going to give 5 times as much legitimacy as it used to. Pretty cool. Added a decision to form the Polish nation. Ruthenia can now be formed even if Russia exists. Forming Manchu no longer changes you out of a horde government tech type. Forming Qing now changes you does change you out of horde or government tech type. Restoring the Byzantine Empire now gives claims instead of cores, similar to most other country formation decisions. Reestablish the theme or TEM system and make Constantinople capital will now only increase the base tax and manpower of Constantinople if the other decision didn't do so already. So no longer are we going to see the Ottomans increase it and then the Byzantines increase it. The Kiel Canal is now cheaper than other canals and will trigger fewer bad events. Canals can now be built if a subject of yours owns the land as well. Added a decision to reform the League of the Mayapen. Added a decision to form Australia. Reforming the Byzantine Empire now requires Biga and Epirus. And now a lot of these I didn't actually go through like specific. There's some of them I don't want to go through, but we'll try to go through them pretty quick. Fixed something about that to check if the Peace of Westphalia had happened. Changed the War of the Roses from country event to province event as triggers, and effects indicated that this is a province event. Nobles demand recompensation is now less lethal now, and less likely to happen if the Noble Loyalty Act is active. Rise of the Tiger, flavor event number 6 for Bengal, no longer reduces legitimacy, and will now notify the player that changing dynasty using the event will result in low legitimacy. Persian Shi'ism events now won't trigger if Persia is a subject. Yeah, some of these I'm not going to go through. They're kind of very specific to very, very small countries. But this is a significant kind of overall change. Rebalanced a bunch of countries' events so that if each dynamic historical event should always happen if the triggers are true in-game, and all options should be available to pick. So we're going to see some things like, I think like maybe, for example, the Iberian wedding, that kind of thing. Like, maybe those will happen every game type thing. I don't know. We'll see. Ideas. Malayan ideas renamed to Malayan Sultanate ideas to avoid ambiguity about who gets them. Added national ideas for Kandar. Added Vientiane ideas. Added Brazilian ideas. Forming Brazil will now give Brazilian ideas. Cool. Added Kurdish ideas. Carib. Added ideas for Benin, Bremen, Holstein, Wurzburg, Ceylon, and changed the order of Norwegian national ideas. Rulers of pagan theocracies are now called high priests instead of archbishops. New flags for Utrecht and Friesland. French Fryland. It's probably a big French fry. The province modifier for Schwaz silver mine is now permanent. This, I think, off the top of my head, is the modifier that Austria can place on the Tyrol gold mine. It increases the production by like 100%. And I think if you conquered it in 1.9, you would lose that modifier. So now having it permanent is pretty cool. Hopefully, I'll get it back in my Switzerland campaign because I took Tyrol from Austria. Dirty bastard. Fixed EU4 Art of War database securing the Imperial border mission from Austria should only show up if Burgundy is not a rival. So you start up the game in Art of War, and it wants you to like re-up your royal marriage with Burgundy, and you're automatically forced rivals. And it's like, why is this here? You can't do it. It's impossible. And it's been fixed, which is good. Claim on rival mission will now no longer abort due to being interagency. The Mughal and Timurid conquest missions should no longer be available against your own allies. The mission to defend the frontier now adapted to the new map. The Black Chamber Act now gives global autonomy reduction instead of aggressive expansion. We've seen a couple of these aggressive expansion things get nerfed. Same thing with the Dissolution Act. And then we've got a bunch of other stuff related to setup, like the initial setup in 1444. I'm not going to read through these things. There's just too much there. You can go read the patch notes if you want. There's some new tags, new cultures, and stuff like that. And then finally, some of these bug fixes. This is where I think most of the patch notes should have been. A lot of this stuff was just bug fixes, seemed like. You no longer get all of your aggressive expansion removed when making a peace offer that was supposed to remove a very small amount of AE. So if you want to abuse this, you've got like 2 days left. If you, in 1.9, have a one province minor vassal that you cancel as a surrendered peace offer, and the easiest way to do this is you attack a one province minor, get them to 100%, and then now that you have them at 100%, they have to accept whatever you offer them. So you have them at 100%, you surrender to them, and as part of the peace deal, you offer that you will cancel the one province minor vassal. It's a very, very small aggressive expansion reduction, and it was going below the floor and like actually removing 999 aggressive expansion from the entire map. So that won't be possible anymore. So go have some fun with it. It's pretty cool. Aggressive expansion gained from demanded vassalization now can't get higher than base value unmodified by distance, for aggressive expansion drop-off is centered on vassal capital. Okay. You can't revoke a march while March is at war. Colonial subjects taken over by annexation will now get their new overlord's map color instead of retaining their old overlord's color. So if I'm France and I eat Spain and I full annex them and I inherit all of their colonial nations, they should change to my beautiful blue color. The big blue baguette. Protectorates now increase naval range as suggested by Request Fleet Basing Rights Tooltip. Center of Reformation placement within a country is now actually random and not fake random. I love how they like put these things in that are random, and then they later on they'll patch and say, yeah, it was actually fake random. It wasn't really random. But it is real random now. Disaster progress now stays even if it does not progress unless it fulfills a can stop trigger. So that's good. That should mean that some more of these... I have never had a disaster fire since they changed it from random events to this disaster system, I have never had a disaster fire. They're very easy to avoid, and it's because you can just, you know, wait till it gets to 99% and then satisfy the conditions, and then it just ticks down and it goes away. So now the progress will stay, and if you let something get to 95%, then unless you fill the can't stop trigger, it will fire eventually, whether it's Aspiration for Liberty or, you know, whatever the other ones are. I don't even know what they are, because it's the Peasants' War, you know, that kind of thing. The revolution target now properly carries over on tag change, such as when forming a nation. It's now possible to expand existing client states, even when you have reached the maximum number of client states. I believe the number's 10. You can only make 10 colonial, or 10 client states, and when you got to 10, I think the button just stopped working, and now you can still expand and add more. So what would happen is you'd get to the 10th client state, you give them one province, and then that was it. You couldn't give them any more. Election lost opinion modifier will actually decay properly. This is referring to if you're playing as Poland, and other countries are supporting their dynasty, and then they lose the election, they would get a -20 opinion of you, and it would always be there for the rest of the game, -20. And so that will actually tick down now at a rate of like 1 or 2 per year. Trade companies and merchants are now properly transferred on tag change. I actually just noticed this when I was playing my home Roman record race. I clicked the button, right, to form the HRE, and I changed tag to HRE, and all of my trade companies were gone, and I lost all the bonus merchants, and it was weird. So that's fixed. Coalition wars no longer give 100% war score just from occupying the war leader. Another good change. Again, it felt kind of gimmicky to be able to declare on a one-province minor and just go siege them down, and then there goes the whole coalition. You could piece them out. So, cool. Very, very exciting about this. Very excited about this patch. I think it's going to be... I won't say I'm as excited as I was about Art of War, because I was so geeked about the army, the thing. But it's up there. Yeah, I'm going to give it to the El Dorado. I'm more excited about El Dorado simply because of the nation designer. And there's so many broken combinations that I'm going to make. I can't wait to play it. I hope you're excited about it too. We got 2 days to go. Thanks for watching this video. Hopefully it helped you out. Hopefully you got some value out of it. I know I'm just rambling, and it's a pretty long video. So I look forward to seeing you in the first El Dorado campaign that will start on Thursday. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you soon.